Week 6 of the NFL season is officially in the books, and my goodness gracious, what is going on in the NFL? In today's video, I want to give you guys my Week 7 power rankings of the 2026 NFL season. Subscribe and like the video if you do go on to enjoy. Let's hop into it. And we are going to begin with at number 32, the New York Jets. The Jets are the lone team at the bottom of the barrel with a big old goose egg in the win column. They have no wins on the season, and they could have probably won 2 or 3 games up to this point. They had the game versus the Bucks where they gave up a game-winning drive. They were really competitive with the Pittsburgh Steelers in week 1. Then this past week, in a game where Justin Fields was abysmal, they lost by less than a field goal versus the Denver Broncos. But yet here we are, they're 0-6. They have made so many just mind-boggling decisions when it comes to starting Justin Fields. Like, why is Tyrod Taylor not the starter of this football team? I think Aaron Glenn has to do a little bit of some self-reflecting here to figure out what he can do to fix this team, because in no way should Justin Fields still be the starter of this team. It's a bad football team. I don't know how many games they're going to win this year, if they win a single one. I'm sure they will eventually, but it's not looking good right now. Moving to number 31, I have the Tennessee Titans. Now, admittedly speaking, you could flip-flop the Titans and the Jets. Either way, I don't disagree with you. I do have the Titans one ahead of the Jets because they at least have a victory on their resume. That victory being one of the flukiest things you'll ever see, but still, you gotta grant them the benefit of doubt with that one. They get the win. They're a bad football team. They just fired their head coach. Maybe this starts some momentum or something, because we've seen it in the past where you fire a head coach, the interim comes in and they start to play for the interim head coach. It happens all the time. Maybe that happens for Tennessee, but unfortunately for them, I just think they have a talent deficiency. I don't think this is a coaching or schematics problem. I just think it's a talent issue. They're just not that good. Yes, the schematics have been terrible the past few weeks, but even if you put a guy who's really smart in there, they won't find too much success because it's a bad football team. Moving to number 30, I have the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals figured some things out in their game versus the Green Bay Packers. The passing offense started to move the ball a little bit, and if they can kind of start to carry this over in future weeks, they might become a better roster. With Joe Burrow probably not playing until maybe mid-December, if even at all, this team really has no shot of being a competitive team to try and fight into a playoff spot, which is kind of unfortunate for Bengals fans, because if you look at the AFC, it's pretty dang open. So even if the Bengals have a shitty roster, as long as you got Burrow and Chase, you have a chance. But of course, without Burrow, you're starting with Joe Flacco now, and I think Flacco's fine. I think they'll win a couple games with Flacco. Maybe not a couple, maybe like 1 or 2. But they just got to find a way right now. They got to find a way to bounce back, get this team to around 500 or close to 500 by the time Burrow returns, and then maybe they have a chance. They're 2-4 now. They're a bad football team, poorly coached, poor defense, poor offensive line, poor ground game. But if they could just get a functional passing offense, get the ball to Chase, get the ball to Higgins, I think they can find success. We'll just have to wait and see if they can keep up the consistency with some big explosive plays going to their playmakers. Moving to number 29, we have the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins are just a total mess. From what you see on the field to what you see in the press conferences, Tua Tagovailoa is one of the worst quarterbacks, if not the worst quarterback I've seen in recent history when it comes to answering press conference questions. Like, he was basically pointing the blame at the leadership of the Miami Dolphins for showing up late and doing things like that. Buddy, look in the mirror. You are supposed to be the leader of this football team. What are we talking about? Just some of the things he says, don't inspire much confidence in him as a franchise quarterback. Talking about, oh, I might throw 5 picks in a game, but I still get to go home and talk to my kids. It's like, that's cool and all. I'm happy for you. I understand you're a human being too, but you're supposed to be the quarterback of a franchise. You're supposed to be the guy, and you're going out here basically pointing the blame at everyone but yourself, and then saying, I don't care if I throw 5 picks. I gotta go home, live in my mansion, and talk to my kids. Like, if I'm a Dolphins fan, I'm fed up with this guy. If I am a Dolphins fan, obviously you know you're gonna get a new head coach. Obviously you know you're probably gonna get rid of Tyreek Hill. I'm asking for Tua out. I don't care how much you got to pay the guy. I'm asking for him to get out because I think he is a bad representative of this football team. And it's unfortunate. They have some guys here and there, but they're just a bad team. Bad offensive line, a quarterback who's just playing so up and down. The turnovers have been a major problem for him this year, and just a terrible defense that cannot stuff the run. It's just a poor team. They're a bad football team. They're in my bottom 5 for a reason. Moving to number 28, I got the Las Vegas Raiders. It feels like the Raiders are trying to figure out who they are. This past week, it was really weird watching Geno Smith not push the ball down the field. It almost feels like they sent out a company memo that said, hey, Geno Smith is not going to throw the ball past 10 yards, because it almost felt like everything was underneath, handed to Genty, take as much care of the football as you physically can, and it kind of worked out, I suppose, for this offense. This Raiders team is not good. It's a bad defense that is carried by Max Crosby, and basically that's it. I guess Malcolm Koonce is a solid player. It's just a bad defense with not a lot of great talent. And then on the offense, you're figuring some things out with Ashton Genty, and then once you do get Brock Bowers back, I think this offense can be a bit more functional. But it feels pretty clear to me that this team has lost a lot of their confidence in their quarterback, Geno Smith, and when you lose confidence in your quarterback, I think it just makes you a bad team in general. I know you're paying Geno Smith a ton of money, but if he continues to be up and down or just not playing well, I gotta think you eventually start to consider maybe making a play for Aiden O'Connell. Because at least with him, you know that he can play, and I would say that Aiden O'Connell has probably been a better quarterback in his entire career for what we've seen this year in Geno Smith. So, I don't know, just throwing that out there. Moving to number 27, I got the New York Giants. I really want to move the Giants up my board, and trust me, if they get another win or if they continue to be this super scrappy competitive football team, I will start to move them up. Unfortunately for them, they are 2-4, but they have been pretty good since Jackson Dart has started. They're 2-1 in his 3 starts. This offense is moving the football. There's some newfound confidence and rhythm with this unit. I just need to see it for an extended stretch before I go out there and start putting them up there in the teens or you know, early 20s or something like that. So for now, they're in this spot, but it's very much a temporary holding spot just for right now. I love what I'm seeing from Jackson Dart. I love what I'm seeing from Scatabo. I feel like there's a new swagger and energy to a franchise that hasn't really had that in what feels like my entire adulthood, or I guess even my teenage years. It's been like since 2016 that I've seen this Giants team have some swagger or some energy to them. It feels like they have that now, and that's actually very exciting for this team. So they're a little bit lower right now, but trust me, if they continue up this level of play, they're going to move up my board, no doubt in my mind. Moving to number 26, I got the Cleveland Browns. The Browns are a scrappy team. They just got to figure it out on offense. They got a really solid defense. They got to figure it out on the offensive end. They got a decent running back in Quinshaw Judkins. They have a couple weapons on the outside. Dylan Gabriel threw the ball 52 times. What are we doing here? I get it. It's a passing league. You got to pass the football to win games. But you have your 3rd round pick, a guy who has been a backup the entire season, going against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and you have him throw the ball 52 times? That's a recipe for disaster 9 times out of 10. So they set him up for a failure of a game, and I thought he was pretty bad. He had a couple really bad throws. Not saying you start Shedeur Sanders. I've already heard so many people say that. I think we give Dylan some more attempts at being a starter, and this team is scrappy. I know the record is 1-5, but they can go. They can play, and I think they're going to win games eventually because every game has been really close for this Browns team, minus a couple stinkers early in the year. Moving to number 25, I have the New Orleans Saints. This is back-to-back teams with only 1 win on their resume, but man, they are scrappy teams. And that is the same exact story here for the Saints. Spencer Rattler is playing at a fine level. He's playing at, in fact, I would say better than fine. He's playing at a good level right now. He's a solid starting quarterback. The problem is this Saints team just has other issues not named Spencer Rattler. But they have been super competitive with what feels like every team they've went up against. I feel like they haven't really been thrown out and put to the gutter or anything like that. It feels like they've been pretty close in most of their games, and, you know, with some opportunities to win it if they just had better personnel. They're not a talented football team, at least not talented enough, but when they do face off against teams that are similar talent levels, like look at the New York Giants game, this Saints team has shown the ability to win those games or has shown the ability to stay in those games. So I think once the Saints schedule, once they go up against some easier matchups, you will see the Saints team try and, you know, probably pick up a few wins here and there. Moving to number 24, I got the Baltimore Ravens. This ranking is simply off the back that I know Lamar Jackson's going to be returning here soon. And with Lamar Jackson, this team does take a significant upgrade. They have issues. But I kind of like what I saw versus the LA Rams. They showed a little bit more fight, a little bit more grit, and the defense held a good Rams offense to only 17 points. Now that you have Lamar Jackson potentially getting mixed into the fold on the offensive end, you can get back to being this really explosive and functional offense. But if you can just get this defense to get a couple stops a game, maybe a few turnovers here and there, I think this Ravens team will start to pick up some wins. I don't know what their schedule is going to look like the rest of the way. If it gets tough, they're going to lose those games because this defense is not good enough. But if they have winnable matchups, I could see them going on a bit of a run to just start to stack up a few wins. I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs because they're in a huge deficit. But with Lamar returning, I think it gives them a good chance to start to pick up some more wins because they will have a very good offense, and there is going to be a sense of urgency on that offensive end, especially, of course, Lamar Jackson. Moving to number 23, the Dallas Cowboys. I feel like I've had the same conversation at least 5 times this season, probably more than that. The Dallas Cowboys are an excellent offense with a abysmal defense. I mean, not even kidding, this defense is absolutely atrocious. On the year, they've given up 184 points, but have scored 178. Dak Prescott's playing at honestly, an MVP level. George Pickens is having his best year of his career. They're going to get CeeDee Lamb back. Javonte Williams has been good. The offensive line's been really solid. The play calling's been excellent. But this defense sucks. I mean, they are a horrendous defense. I mean, Bryce Young, who, give credit to the guy, had a great game, but he was dicing them up, and it wasn't really that he was making a bunch of high-level, tight window throws. A lot of it was wide-open dudes running wide open. Like the Rico Dowdle touchdown, the passing touchdown, wide open touchdown. Multiple times where Ted McMillan just was wide open. They cannot cover, they cannot stuff the run, nor can they get after the passer. So it's like, what does this Cowboys defense have to hang their hat on? The answer is nothing. They have nothing they can hang their hat on. They don't have good linebackers. Yes, they're banged up. They'll get Overshown back. Maybe Ravel will help this defense out too. But there's nothing good about this Cowboys defense, and it's such a shame that they are wasting a incredible offense that can go into the playoffs and win playoff games, but they're wasting that really special offense with, in my opinion, probably the worst defense in all of football. It's a shame. Do I think they need to be aggressive in free agency or aggressive in the trade deadline? To an extent. I don't know if I would give up my first round picks, but if I can go out there and get like a Jeffrey Simmons or a Max Crosby, I think I'd have to consider it because the Cowboys are in a win now timeline. So I think you have to consider making a move to give your team at least a shot. Moving to number 22, I have the Arizona Cardinals. I have them this low because, frankly, this is the lowest I've ever felt about Kyler Murray. I don't know how to feel about him because he is a very polarizing subject. Some people think he's really good. Some people think he's complete dog shit. I think he's just a very average quarterback. And we saw it this week where you put Jacoby Brissett on this offense, and all of a sudden this offense looks like very functional. And that was with Marvin Harrison Jr. having a concussion. Like, this offense actually moved the football. I think they had like 400 yards versus the Indianapolis Colts. And that's just something we haven't really seen from Kyler Murray this season. So I don't know if you bench Kyler for Jacoby. I'm not suggesting that. Obviously, Kyler gets the big bucks for a reason and has the rushing upside. But this offense has to figure it out. They're really going to be a bit more one-dimensional because of their running back situation and all the injuries they have there and their pretty average offensive line. But they're going to have to pass the football with some efficiency and with some effectiveness because they have a good defense. And if they're going to win games, they're going to have to hang their hat on defense and passing the ball efficiently and getting the ball out to their playmakers. You have guys there, McBride, Marv when healthy. Kyler Murray's a capable enough quarterback. They just got to start to put things together. They're 2-4 on the season. And this was a team that a lot of us, including myself, thought had a chance to make the playoffs, but through 6 games, just has not been the case. They have to get some things figured out, catch a rhythm, and just go on a bit of a run here. I think they can do it, but I don't know if they are going to be able to do it because they haven't shown me so far this year. So we'll have to wait and see. Moving to number 21, the Houston Texans. The Texans had a bye week this past week. They've started to figure a couple things out on the offensive end, granted against bad defenses, but they have figured some things out. Let's see if they can carry it over in future weeks. They have an excellent defense, one of, if not the best defenses out there. So they just need their offense to be functional. And if they can get that, they're going to win a lot more games. They're 2-3. I don't think they're going to win the division, but they still can make a wild card spot if the pieces start to connect. Number 20, the Carolina Panthers. At one point, they were in my bottom 5 power rankings. Now they're all the way up to 20. They're 3-3 on the season, and boy, has it been a complete roller coaster for this team. I'm talking, you started off going straight dive bomb. Then you went all the way back up after that Falcons game, all the way back down after the Patriots game. And now in back-to-back weeks, you are rising and you are becoming a better football team. And this next week, they have another really easy matchup, as you have the New York Jets. So you have a really good chance to win 3 straight games, through 7 games, potentially be 4-3 and have above a 500 record. You're probably going to lose to the Bills, but still you'll be 4-4. And shoot, everything is still in front of you. Do I think the Panthers are going to make the playoffs? No. But 7 games this year, can they win 7? I think it's a possibility, which would be a pretty big step forward for a Panthers team that, frankly, needs to take a step forward. They're playing good football. They have something here with Rico Dowdle. Let's see if they can continue that on, especially once they go up against better competition. I think Bryce Young is playing good enough football. You have something here with Ted McMillan. The offensive line is playing better. I think the coaching staff is starting to put their team in better situations. And I think the defense is making enough plays on the field to keep the games relatively close. So I think Carolina's trending in the right direction. I don't know if they're ever going to be higher than what I have them now. I think they're probably going to stay as high as 20 if they beat the Jets. But if they beat a team like Buffalo and upset a few teams, shoot, I might put them a little bit higher. I like where this Panthers team is heading. They just need to find the consistency of being a consistent football team. Because so far this year, I'm talking up and down roller coaster with this Panthers squad. Moving to number 19, I got the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings had a bye week. We'll see who plays quarterback. I think it probably will be JJ McCarthy. They got to get things figured out with the quarterback position because they're a talented team. They got to figure out some of the injuries on the offensive line, but they got to figure out quarterback more importantly. So until then, I can't really move them higher until I can see that they have a capable starting quarterback. Moving to number 18, the Washington Commanders. The Commanders are a good football team. They're far from bad. Against the Chicago Bears, they had chances to win that game, and it didn't help them that the conditions weren't particularly special there with, some weather issues and things like that. They could have won that football game. There was opportunities and chances for them to get into that football game, and they kind of blew it. Again, you had chances. They just didn't connect on the pieces. The Commanders are a good football team. I don't think they're great, nor do I think they're contenders. I think a lot of people jumped the gun after a successful rookie year for Jaden Daniels and wanted to proclaim the Commanders as the next big team in the NFL. I always thought that was pretty, far-fetched. I think they will make the playoffs, or at least have a shot at making it. I think they'll go above 500. Again, they're a fine football team. They're not great. They have things to figure out. They got to get younger, and they have to be efficient here in free agency and in the draft of hitting on guys who are younger to help build this team for the future, because if not, you look at this team, they're quite old, and 3-4 years down the line, all these old guys are going to be washed or they're going to be off and not on this team anymore. So they have to figure out ways to continue to build with younger pieces. Moving to number 17, the Chicago Bears. So I want to say this, and this is going to take effect basically from here on out. I'm taking a lot on head-to-head matchups. So if you have a victory over an opponent, then I got to put you higher than them. Take, for example, this one here. The Bears beat the Commanders, and they have a better record. Hence why I have the Bears in front of them. So as we go through the list, I'll, of course, keep mentioning and bringing this subject back up. Because, frankly, this power rankings, it was super difficult to put together. So the best way to do a power rankings is look at the head-to-head and figure out who's been the better team. With that said, the Bears have figured things out. Their offense is playing a whole lot better, and give credit to that defense for slowing down that Commanders offense enough to give them an opportunity to win the game. They held the game, they had control of it, then they made some mistakes, they almost lost control of it, and then they picked it back up late with, of course, the game-winning field goal. Shout out Jake Moody, by the way. He's really been going through it, and I'll give him some flowers for making that kick. I don't know if he's ever going to be a franchise kicker, but getting that one through the goals would probably felt pretty good for him. But yeah, the Bears are a better football team this year than what they were last year. They're still building. They're not fully there yet. I don't think they'll make the playoffs. They're going to get there eventually, though. They have pieces to work with. I like what I'm seeing from Caleb. They just have to continue to develop and add pieces over the course of the next 2-3 years. Moving to number 16, I got the San Francisco 49ers. The Niners are 4-2, and frankly, they have a chance to still win their division because their schedule is not very difficult. But, and major but here, man, they're so banged up, and it's just a shame. It's going to be a subject we talk about for the rest of the year for the 49ers. The amount of injuries they are having is absolutely insane. We have not seen Ayuk yet. Brock Purdy's been out basically almost every game so far this year. Kittle has been out basically the entire season. Ricky Pearsall is dealing with injuries. Jawan Jennings is dealing with injuries. We're talking Fred Warner's probably out for the season. Nick Bosa's out for the year. You have the Malik Mustafa injury. And I can keep going on and on and on. So many injuries have completely derailed this team. And you look at this Niners defense, they don't stand a chance anymore. I mean, they just simply put do not have the guys without Fred Warner or without Nick Bosa, because you don't have a pass rush, nor do you have that general in the middle that is a complete, honestly, the best linebacker in the NFL, the best coverage linebacker, the best at stuff in the run. Like, he's one of the best out there. He's now out probably for the rest of the year. So you just don't have a guy on defense that you can really hang your hat on. So that's tough. Obviously, Robert Sala's going to have to figure things out. He's a smart defensive guy. I think he will find some things out but they just don't have the guys to get the job done at a sufficient manner. Now, on the offensive end, they should get healthier, and I think that will allow them to continue to win games. But I think their ceiling's pretty capped right now because of these major injuries on the defensive side. They're going to be a functional offense with a defense that's going to hold them back from making any sort of run at things. It's a shame. Injuries absolutely suck. Moving to number 15, the Atlanta Falcons. It seems like ever since that Panthers game, this Falcons team has figured it out. They have figured out a formula to have some success on the offensive end, and it's not a complicated formula. It really is not. It's get the ball to your effing playmakers. Bijan Robinson is getting the ball in a multitude of ways. Tyler Algier is finding more success running the football. Drake London is finally getting going. He had a ton of targets this past week, which is exactly what should happen. We're seeing Kyle Pitts get involved. They're finally utilizing their #1 picks, which is something that was so frustrating for this Falcons team for so long. It was, why is Drake London not being targeted 10 times a game? Why is Bijan Robinson only getting 20 carries or 20 touches a game? Like, why aren't these guys touching the ball over and over and over again? And they're figuring it out. And beyond using your playmakers, they're also finding out who their young quarterback is. A lot of the schemes that they were doing early in the year was underneath stuff, rhythm passes, playing with anticipation. And of course, Penix can do that, but Penix is really good when he's driving the ball down the field, taking shots, and they've done a lot more of that these past few weeks. So I'm feeling really good about this Falcons team. They beat a really, really good Buffalo Bills team, and they didn't just beat them. They handled them. They outplayed them on both sides of the field, and they have a good enough defense to feel really decent about this Falcons team. I don't know if they're going to win the division because Tampa Bay is playing at a super high level, but they're 3-2. I think there's a chance they can go on a run to potentially make a wild card spot. It's going to be difficult because the NFC is pretty deep, but I do think a team like the Falcons could be in the conversation. I like what I'm seeing from this team. I really, really do. Moving to number 14, we got the New England Patriots. It's funny, at the beginning of the year, I felt pretty vindicated when I said that the Patriots were going to be an 8-9 football team, that this team was just not going to be good enough to make the playoffs, because that's what I predicted the entire offseason. But boy, my take is not looking pretty good. They're 4-2 on the year, and let's call a spade a spade. Drake May is playing like a top 10, top 8, maybe even top 5 quarterback in the NFL so far this year. I mean, he is dicing up defenses. He's looking like he sucked the powers out of Josh Allen these past few weeks. I mean, it's been really fun to watch. This offense has been very functional, and their defense is holding up. And when you look up the rest of their schedule, it's not a very challenging schedule. They have a couple challenges along the way, but they got some opportunities to win a lot of football games this year. And if they keep this level of play up on the offensive end, continue to get the ball to Diggs, continue to run the football well, Drake May keep being Drake May, I think this Patriots team is going to be right back in the playoffs. And I don't know if they're ready for a playoff run, but man, with Drake May at the helm right now playing at this level, I don't doubt anything that guy can do. Moving to number 13, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers are 4-1, and I have my doubts on this team, but they're winning football games. And that's kind of the formula for Mike Tomlin. You question some of the personnel or some of the decision making or things of that nature for the Steelers team, but they just win football games, which is, at the end of the day, all that matters in the NFL is finding ways to win games. Now, they don't really have a test until a few weeks down the road, so until we start to see the Steelers team go up against high-level competition, I can't quite tell you how good they are. I know they're a good football team, but I can't quite call them a great football team until I see them go up against other really good football teams. So once they go up against better competition, that's when I'll start to put them in my top 10 if they beat them or if they play them really close. So just keep that in mind. They're a good football team, but I don't know if they're a great football team yet. We'll figure it out here soon. Moving to number 12, we have the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs are figuring it out. They're playing better football. The defense has gotten a lot better these past few weeks. The passing attack has been a lot better these past few weeks. They have issues. They cannot run the football, which makes them a very one-dimensional offense. But if there's a team that can survive that, it would be the Chiefs. And you gotta think they're gonna make a trade for a Breece Hall, maybe an Alvin Kamara or somebody like that to bolster this ground game. You gotta think it's going to happen. So the Chiefs are figuring it out. Still, though, they're quite up and down. Of course, you win a game, then you have the Jacksonville game, and then you won this game against the Lions. Let's see what they can do moving forward. They're clearly a good football team that is trending in the right direction. They're getting better week in and week out, but they are 3-3, and there's a lot of good teams in the AFC, especially in that division. Let's see if they can keep up with them or potentially surpass them. They got some work that still needs to be done. That's why they're not in my top 10. Plus, I got to respect the head-to-head. We'll talk about that here in just a second, but the Chiefs are definitely trending in the right direction. I think they are becoming the Chiefs that we know. It's just a matter of time to see, okay, can they do it consistently? Can they survive the ups and downs? And can they make a playoff spot? That's all that matters for Kansas City. But speaking of head-to-head, up next at number 11, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, if the Chiefs and the Jaguars played again, I would still put money on the Chiefs. However, the two teams have played, and the Jaguars came out on top. So I have to respect the head-to-head because this Jaguars team is playing good football. Now, do I think this Jaguars team is a contender? I'm talking Super Bowl? No, I don't think they are. I don't think they're even a dark horse contender. But I do think they are a playoff threat. They have a defense that can play football with guys playing at, career bests, and they have an offense that is functional enough to go down and pick up some points. This past week, they gave a fight to the Seattle Seahawks, who, spoiler alert, I think are a very good football team, and they, of course, beat the Kansas City Chiefs. So they have shown the ability to match up well against good football teams. It's just about, can they start to beat these teams on a more consistent basis? It was a bit of an upset over the Chiefs, so if they can continue to upset teams, then that becomes their norm. Let's see if they can eventually get to that point. They're a good football team. I don't think they're great, but clearly they're trending in the right direction with Liam Cohen and company, and they're going to be a better team in the future, assuming they can continue to ascend. But now we enter into our top 10, and at number 10, I have the Denver Broncos. I don't really know what to do with the Broncos. They're a pretty confusing football team because they've shown the ability to win games comfortably, but they've also shown that they struggle to win games. Like, look at this Jets game. Like, why are you this close to the New York Jets? What was it, 13-11 or something like that? Like, how does that happen? They have a great defense. They have to figure out this offense. This offense, simply put, has to play better football, and it starts off with the play calling, and it also starts off with Bo Nix. It just has to be better. They have to be able to run the football. They have to be able to create explosive plays. They got to be able to pass the football. If I'm the Broncos, I would be quite aggressive at the trade deadline to try and bring in a receiver, like potentially a Chris Olave if he's available, because they have Courtland Sutton, but outside of him, it feels pretty bleak in the receiving core. This Broncos team is good. Again, kind of like the past few teams, I don't know if they're great. I think they have the potential to become great if they make a few moves or if this offense just starts to play better football. Moving to number 9, I have the LA Chargers. Again, just talking about head-to-head here, the Chargers have a victory over the Kansas City Chiefs in week 1 and, of course, the Denver Broncos. So I have to put the Chargers in front of them. Granted, I am starting to become a little bit worried about this Chargers team. The injuries on the offense are really starting to stack up, and it feels like it's holding back Herbert and this offense from really taking the step necessary forward. But once they get healthy, I think they have the pieces. I think their defense is good. Granted, they haven't been great these past few weeks. Let's see if they can return to form. But you have a quarterback playing at a high level. I still like Amari Hampton once he's healthy. I like this offensive line when they're healthy. I think there's enough pieces here to become a great football team. They just got to get healthy. They got to get their guys back. So until they get their guys, it's really hard to judge this Chargers team. They're winning, they're losing. These past 3 weeks have not been particularly great. I'm hoping they can get healthier, though. The nice thing for the Chargers, their schedule for the next few weeks is not the most difficult, so they can get healthy prior to their tough stretch down the season where you're going to have to get your guys back if you want to win some of those games. Moving to number 8, I got the Green Bay Packers. I'm confused with this Packers team. Weeks 1 and 2, my goodness, that was the best team in the NFL. Since then, it has been a loss, it has been a tie, and it has been a kind of a slugfest, ugly win versus the Bengals. Now, they're 3-1-1, and they have a better record than a lot of other football teams. And they're clearly a really good football roster. They clearly have guys that can 100% go. It's just a question of, okay, is this team good or is this team really, really good to borderline great? They got guys. They got pieces. I like what Love has been doing this year. They got to be more consistent in that passing attack, but it's been really good so far. I am a little bit worried about this defense. It feels like they've taken a bit of a step back, and it feels like now that the Micah Parsons trade has started to wear off a little bit, there seems to be a lack of juice on the defensive end. So I need to see them bounce back and start to play better football, but I still think the Packers are a good team. If they start to win football games, they'll start to climb back up my power rankings. Moving to number 7, I got the LA Rams. The Rams are 4-2, but frankly, I have not been blown away with this Rams team, and that's a shame because I'm actually a pretty big fan of this Rams team. I think they have the pieces to win a Super Bowl this year, but they haven't really shown me that this year. You had the really fun game versus the Eagles where you dominated the first half. Then you came out and threw a jab and got punched in the face versus the Eagles in the second half. You had a weird game versus Indianapolis where you probably should have lost the game. Then you had a couple ugly games here and there. And in this past week versus the Ravens, 17-3 versus one of the worst teams in the NFL is, in my opinion, unacceptable. This is a Ravens team that has gotten blown out every single week that Lamar has been there, except for this game. So I was a little bit concerned about that one. It was a close ball game heading into halftime. You had a nice third quarter that made it 17-3, but I don't know. I'm just not really liking what this Rams consistency is looking like. They're a good football team. They got guys that can absolutely go. I think they can become an excellent Super Bowl contender. They just got to piece it together and just start playing better football. They're there. They have guys. They are right in the mix to be a playoff team in the NFC. They're going to be in the mix to win their division. They just got to find it. They got to find a rhythm and they just got to play better. That's really the story for the LA Rams. They just got to play better. They have some defensive issues like secondary, but they got to play better. Moving to number 6, I got the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are weird because they were 4-0 and everything looked so good. And then all of a sudden now they're 0-2 in their last 2 weeks. And it's like, what has happened here? The defense has just fallen off completely. And their offense hasn't been that great either. I think they need to get back to the fundamentals. They got to get back to running the football efficiently and effectively with James Cook. They need to get Josh Allen to, stop forcing the ball into tight windows. They also need to get him to stop being frustrated after drives. It feels like he's playing frustrated and not confident right now. So they got to get that figured out. They're a good team. Obviously, we know they're going to be in the playoffs. Their schedule is super light the rest of the way. So I'm not too panicked about this Bills team. They need to get healthy defensively. And I think they might need to make a move in free agency or at the trade deadline to bolster up the defense, especially within the secondary. So maybe they consider that. Again, this Bills offense, they got to get back on track. I think that's the story here for the Bills. They got to get back on track. They're a good team. They're not playing like it, though, right now, especially these past 2 weeks. Let's see if they can get back on track against some bad competition moving forward. Moving to number 5, I got the Detroit Lions. The Lions' 2 losses are against the Chiefs and the Packers. Those are pretty respectable losses. Unfortunately for the Lions, their entire secondary is out right now. It's pretty bleak right now in the secondary. You got dudes off the practice squad stepping in and actually getting playing time. So it's tough right now for the Lions. They're a good team. They got a great offense. They got pieces on the defense that can go. But with an atrocious secondary like what they have right now, it makes life difficult for Dan Campbell and this defense to win football games. It's kind of like what happened late into last year where this Lions team is going to have to be in shootouts to win every game until they become healthy. So when they get healthy, they'll be a good football team. In fact, they'll be one of the best football teams out there. But until then, they're going to have to win shootouts. And when the offense has an off game like they did versus the Chiefs, they're not going to win a lot of games. So hopefully they can get Arnold back. Hopefully they can get DJ Reed back. Hopefully they can get all those dudes to return and play up the high level they were prior to the injury. And then once they get those guys back, the offense will be right back in rhythm. They're a good team. If you still have them in your top 3, I don't blame you. I had to move them down though because they're going to have to win shootouts. And if this offense can't get going to the extent they need to, it's going to be a long season for them, especially until the injured players come back. Moving to number 4, I got the Seattle Seahawks. I like the Seahawks team. Call me a little bit optimistic about this team, but their losses on the year was a weird week 1 loss to the Niners where they did not play good football. I can excuse a week 1 loss though. And then their next loss was a game against the Buccaneers who spoiler alert, are still ahead in my power rankings, but their loss was against them, a game in which they easily could have won that game. The Seahawks have everything you want. A good offense, a great defense, a quarterback playing at a high level. In fact, Sam Darnold's probably a top 10 quarterback so far this year. JSN is playing like the best receiver in football right now. They can run the football. Granted, they need to be a bit more consistent in that department. On the defensive side of things, they can create turnovers. They can get after the quarterback. They can stuff the run. They're a generally complete roster. Now, the question for Seattle is, can they beat high-end football teams consistently? They have shown they can do it, and they're definitely a team that I think can go into an LA and beat the Rams. I think they could beat the Packers. I think the Seahawks could beat any team out there. It's just not can they, will they beat them? So until we start to see that, I can't put them any higher, but I do like where the Seahawks team is heading. I think they're a really good football team. Moving to number 3, I got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Again, got to respect the head-to-head. The Seahawks lost to the Buccaneers, hence why the Bucs are in front of them. I'm loving what I'm seeing from Baker Mayfield. I think Baker Mayfield is the MVP. I am pushing that narrative 1000%. Now he has to continue to do so, but through the games we've seen so far this year, through 6 weeks, he's my MVP. This defense has some issues. They got to figure things out on that side, but I do think they're a talented enough defense to get to where they need to be. On the offensive end, man, no Emeka Egbuka for most of last week. No Mike Evans the past couple of games. Chris Godwin's been in and out of the lineup. Yet they're still absolutely diming it out back there. Baker Mayfield's playing so well without most of his guys. And once he gets back Bucky Irving, once he gets back his trio of wide receivers, once this offensive line can stay healthy for the rest of the year, hopefully. I mean, we're talking about an offense that probably will be one of, if not the best offenses out there. And defensively, again, I think they have the guys and the scheme to become good enough. So once they can just be good enough there, I think they got an offense that can absolutely dominate. Now, their one sort of red mark, their red flag is their loss to Philadelphia, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But I think they showed enough life in that game for me to feel really good. They could have came back to win that game had a couple things went their way. So we'll keep an eye on this Bucs team. They're a very good football team. Coming in at number 2, got to respect the head-to-head here. I'm going with the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, Philadelphia is on major fraud alert. They're at my number 2, but boy, is it on shaky territory. I had to respect the head-to-head because they did beat the Buccaneers, and they're a good team. But man, this Eagles team, they got to figure it out on the offensive end. I think that's the story here. They just got to figure it out. They got the guys. They have the team. They've clearly taken a step back defensively, but they still have a top probably 13 defense in the NFL, if not top 10. And offensively, they have the guys. You have AJ, you got Smitty, you got Saquon, you got Hurts, you got Goddard, you got a good enough offensive line. They just got to figure it out. I think they need to get back to the basics. They got to run the RP. They got to be a bit more creative. And once they start to do that, I think this Eagles team can absolutely beat anyone in the NFL. It's hard to doubt them, but man, they are on fraud alert. A few more losses, and I'm promising you, they will not be at my number 2. They'll easily be out of my top 5. But at number 1, I have the Indianapolis Colts. If you had told me through 6 weeks of the season I'd be putting the Colts number 1, I would have called you a crazy man, but here we are. The Colts are my number 1 team. They're 5-1. Their only loss on the year is against the LA Rams, a game in which they had 14 points taken off the board, which they would have won that game. So because of that, they're my number 1. They basically should be 6-0. I almost count that Rams game as a victory for them. Granted, it's not a victory. They are 5-1, but they're 5-1 on the season. They have, in my opinion, the best offense in the NFL through 6 weeks. And defensively, they're playing at a good enough level. Now, on the offensive end, they can run the football. They can pass the football. They have an excellent tight end. Daniel Jones is playing at a very high level. One of the best offensive lines, the best running back in football right now, arguably the best tight end in football right now, and receivers that are making plays on the outside to go along with a head coach / OC that is absolutely dicing them up right now. And on the defensive side of things, they have guys that can go. They're not perfect. I don't think they have the greatest pass rush, but they can create turnovers. They're sticky enough in coverage to make plays. They're banged up a little bit, but man, if this defense can continue to play at this level they're at right now, and with the offense playing the way they are, they're the best team in the NFL through 6 weeks. Now, granted, do I think Indianapolis is going to win a Super Bowl? Probably not. But through 6 weeks, they're my number 1 team in the entire NFL because they're playing like the number 1 team in the NFL. They're dominating teams they should dominate, and when they get into fist fight, they are winning those fist fights. They have everything and more of what you would want in a Super Bowl contender, so we'll see if they can keep it up. All that said, though, this is my Week 7 power rankings of the 2025 NFL season. You guys let me know in the comment section below, what do you agree with and what do you disagree with? And if you enjoyed, hit the like and subscribe button. Love you guys. Peace.